Hosted by you/backstop feelings. I, 29M, have been living with Julie, 28F, for 3 years, and we had plans to get married this fall. When I proposed last year, Julie mentioned that before getting married, she wanted to explore her attraction to women. After a lot of discussion, she started dating other women, which progressed quickly. She began going out 3 to 4 nights a week to rainbow-friendly bars and meeting many people. Our intimacy was reduced to once or twice a week, and I started feeling a lot of resentment. This led to several discussions, which ended with me also being allowed to date other people, much to her dismay. Julie eventually found someone, and Kate, 30F, became her girlfriend. They met 2 to 3 times a week, often overnight. Things became manageable for a couple of months, but then Julie asked me to start using condoms whenever we smashed. When I asked why, she said her doctor had recommended it until a female issue she was experiencing cleared up. After a couple of weeks, I asked if things had improved, and when I questioned her about going back to the doctor, she broke down and told me that Kate had complained that I was polluting her insides, prompting the request. Under protest, I agreed to keep using condoms. I have a sensitivity issue with condoms. It takes me much longer to finish, and overall, I don't perform as well as I would like. To cut a long intimate explanation short, it meant my bedroom intimacy sessions with Julie would go on too long, which she didn't like, so we ended up being intimate less and less. Obviously, this caused some friction between me and Julie, and in May, it all came to a head when we were supposed to meet with a wedding planner. I slammed on the brakes and said we had issues we needed to work out before going any further. Julie's mother was already in planning mode and was confused because she was in the dark, so I made Julie handle it, and we pushed the wedding off until next spring. In the meantime, a coworker introduced me to his cousin, Pam, 24F. I explained my situation, and after some thought, she was in for some casual dating. Less than 2 weeks later, we were spending 4 nights a week together. Physical touch is both of our love languages, and the contact and PDA between us felt like electricity. We also weren't using condoms, which had a negative effect on my intimacy with Julie. All of a sudden, Julie says we need to fix things and prioritize each other more, perhaps cutting back on our time with our other partners. I know her mom is pressuring her to get the wedding back on track, and the condom issue gets discussed a lot. Right now, my emotional and physical needs are being met by Pam 70% versus Julie 30%. Pam and I have been using the L word a lot recently. If Julie gives me an ultimatum right now, she may not like the answer. The easiest way forward with Julie would involve her cutting off Kate. It may not be fair, but it's probably the most viable option. Op in the comments. I have been dating Pam for almost 3 months now, but that is still pretty fast to be telling each other that we love each other. I feel like Julie and I were in a pretty good place and had talked about marriage, kids, and growing old together before I proposed. We had several discussions about doubts and questions we both had before the topic of her exploring different experiences came up. She had done some experimenting in college, but it had never gone very far, and it was something she was curious about. We both felt she should explore it before we settled down and got married. We both have made some bad decisions, and now we are up to our hips in it. I'm torn between 2 decisions. Is Julie still committed enough to me to salvage our relationship, or is Pam really the right one in the long run? It's like flipping a coin in the dark and hoping you can catch it before it slips between your fingers and you lose it all. Update 1. I stewed all day after reading all the comments and decided I was going to confront Julie when I got home. As I pulled up to the house, I saw Julie's mom's car in our driveway. No sooner did I get in the door than I was bombarded by Julie and her mom, who were eager to set a wedding date so they could start looking for a venue and begin planning. I said something to the effect that there wasn't going to be a wedding. Her mom asked me what I was talking about and what the hell had gotten into my head. Ever had one of those moments when time slows to a crawl? I looked at Julie, and I could legit see the color drain from her face as I said to her mom, since February, Julie has been having an affair with a woman named Kate, and it has ruined our intimate life. I doubt we will still be together a month from now. I walked into the living room and sat down, listening to them argue. They went at it for about 10 minutes before going outside, and then I heard her mom's car drive away. Julie came back, cursing and swearing and asking how I could do such a thing. I said, that ambush went sideways, didn't it? You should have confided in your mom and brought her up to speed first. I told her our relationship was a dumpster fire, and I no longer wanted to get married. I was tired of her relationship with Kate overshadowing ours. She was still yelling at me, so I got up, left the house, and went to grab a bite to eat to let her cool off. It took her about 15 minutes to start blowing up my phone. I finally called her back when I was leaving the diner, and she asked me to come home and talk it out. She was a lot calmer when I got back, and we actually had a productive conversation. We are still a ways from a happy medium, but we are talking. She wants to know how we can fix things, so I told her to make a list of what she thinks is fair and will help mend things, and we can go from there. I told her I would do the same, and tomorrow when we get home, we can compare the lists. Sorry for the long-winded update. Update 2. A lot to unpack, so I decided to do a new update. I had told Julie to make a list of what she thinks is fair and will help mend things, and we could compare her list with mine to see if there was a chance to move forward. Yesterday, She called from work and said she needed to stop and talk with Kate before coming home but would be there for dinner so we could talk. Finally, around 7 p.m., she called and asked if I could order pizza and bread, and she would stop to pick up some wine. She came home and opened a bottle of wine just as the pizza was being delivered. She handed me a list of things she had come up with, and I handed her my list along with some printed out comments from here about moments when our relationship ended due to her actions. I told her they came from a message board, and she wanted to read them all, but I said now was not the time. Her talk with Kate went long because they got into an argument about Julie taking a step back and insulating the two relationships from each other. It was bad enough that Julie ended things with her before she left. She wrote down all her passwords and codes, then handed her phone to me, saying I might find some of it hard to read, but she didn't want to hide anything from me anymore. She realizes now that Kate was doing everything she could to drive a wedge between us, and she was foolish not to see it. She asked me if I had meant everything I had told her mom about the marriage and us not being together another month. I said there was no way I would marry the person she had shown me over the last 6 months. I thought it would be better if we gave each other some space rather than treating each other the way we had. She wanted to do therapy instead and close our relationship to get back to where we were. I was very blunt about the fact that she had made promises to me before, such as decisions about intimate health and testing and always putting us first, which she had failed to keep. As a result, I had lost a lot of faith in her word. I wasn't going to close our relationship and risk losing what I had with Pam while our relationship was on the rocks. This hit her pretty hard, combined with downing the first bottle of wine, and she ended up crashing on the couch. I stayed up and continued to go through her phone. Kate had consistently been running me down and trying to get Julie to push back and pull away from me. There had been women she traded pictures with, including 2 who had warned her about Kate's agenda. Some of Julie's intimate texting hurt me a little because she had never sent anything like that to me. There were 3 messages from Kate that day, wanting Julie to come back over to work things out. There weren't any gaps or obviously deleted messages, and the rest of her social media supported what she had told me. This was all on Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, she was still hungover and asked if I would be home that night. I told her that Pam and I were going to a movie and I would probably spend the night at her house. Julie sent me a text while I was at work amending her list from the other night. Originally, she had proposed going out only one night a week with a midnight curfew, but she scratched that off the list. She now wants 2 date nights a week with me and still wants to see a therapist together. She's asking for 6 weeks to date me again and prove herself before I give up on her. She said she was open to talking about things I wanted to do that she had previously shot down. I am torn about what to do. As much as I would like to turn back time, the pain she caused is still fresh in my mind, and there will always be a fear that Mrs. Hyde might reappear in the future. Op in the comments. I'm leaning towards a break myself, but I have considered couples counseling before she brought it up. I may take some time to see what happens before pushing for a separation. The wedding is off the table. I asked for the engagement ring back, but she is still wearing it. I have cancelled the actual wedding ring order and should get half my deposit back next week. At the moment, I'm not ready to end things with Pam while Julie and I are on the verge of breaking up. Pam has been very understanding and supportive, but I wouldn't expect her to wait around if Julie and I were to close and shut her out. I just don't want to do anything rash and regret it later, kind of like the decision to open up for Julie in the first place.